Yeah, come on. All right, go again. Go for it.
Gentlemen, first episode of the Real Degree podcast. You know, I'm sitting here with two of the most credible guys in the home improvement industry, taking a company from 0 to 15 million. I mean, Jamie, like, what's the secret?
Secret, huh? I would say one of the biggest things right out of the gate is structure. You know, you got to have a plan of how you're going to put together those types of sales, get out in the home, put together a team, really find that talent and train them up. But it starts with sales.
Wait, you mean there's not just a hidden secret?
I know. Wouldn't that be awesome?
I thought there was, and I wanted to go back to Jeff will probably hear this. He's gonna laugh at us when we say only 0 to 15, but guys, this is like really the baseline. I think what we're getting at to building a company, right? Like those first, we always talk about 0 to 1 million is very difficult, right? Then you have some infrastructure, right? 1 to 10 million is very, very difficult. 10 to 100 million is very, very difficult. So like 15 is, we've kind of gotten past, and I don't know if you feel like this too, Jamie, but definitely in AE, we're pacing, roughly about 15 this year. It feels like we're finally getting over that hump of like, we're so small that we have all of those, massive issues when you're that small. Do you kind of feel like that?
I do, because the systems start to take care of a lot of those things that initially was sheer grit that got you there in the first place. Yeah. So when you have a team and a culture that really creates that duplication effect, it really starts to take off.
Yeah, makes it a lot easier when one bad thing goes, you can just substitute or, plug and chug or move guys or, whatever it may be, trailers, people, a computer breaking, right? Yep. Typically at this stage, we got more than one computer now.
That's right.
We got more than one computer. Can you believe it? So,
just a few.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, like, obviously it takes, building that structure, but like, the structure first starts with the leader. Now, both of you guys, obviously, like, have your own teams. What was the hardest part of obviously, like, building yourself into that kind of person to, make that structure?
No, it's a great question. Like, one of the hardest things in the beginning was jumping into an organization or even just in the industry as a whole, having to self-educate just about everything. So getting in front of a customer, learning the product, learning what we had to do to produce the goods and services to a customer, but also growing me to figure out how I could be best fit for each customer I sat in front of. Mm-hmm. So it was education me as I drove from customer to customer, literally listening to audios on books on audio, and trying to figure out what I needed to be a best fit for every customer I got in front of.
Yeah.
So
I definitely, me and Jamie are definitely like yin and yang, right? Like we still work together in the PolyPro side of things. Jamie handles more of the day-to-day. If he's got something, higher up that he wants to take up or whatever, he'll ask as well. Jamie, how long have you been in the home service industry?
20 years.
So 20 years, a lot longer than I have. So he handles, a lot of what's going on. So definitely well-versed, like very credible. I learn, every day from Jamie as well. Even when we implement stuff in AE, we've learned as well. But, I'm more of like the, and we always talk about the massive action guy, right? Jamie's like, hey, I need a game plan so we can take the action. I'm like, fuck it, go all in, right? So like when I think of like my leadership style is like, I'm gonna show you. Like if you don't think it's possible, like I'm gonna show you. And I have this conversation with Jamie sometimes too. Like the best training is sometimes just getting in the car with a guy and just saying, hey, all those leads that you said you couldn't close? Like I just closed them. So like, what's your excuse now, right? And I think a lot of people, are like pointing from the top, in most companies where I feel like even Revamp, Jeff is still willing. I saw him on a rubber rock job the other day, right? Like most CEOs of a 150 to $300 million company aren't out installing a product on somebody's patio. So definitely being the guy to get out there and like lead from the front, and naturally everyone typically follows. I feel like when you do that, Jamie does a good job of that. Most of the guys within the PolyPro and Revamp division here in Fort Wayne, do that, which is, I feel like why we grew so fast.
It most certainly is. Yeah, that example was set early on. So when I came on board, jumped right into the sales, was given all the structure, obviously had experience coming into it, but I had to learn what worked for the coatings industry. So once I figured that out, within honestly that first week, it really started to take off. And I remember quickly Parker leveraging and saying, hey Jamie, we got some new guys getting started, can we get them in the car with you? just so they can see from start to finish, when you walk up to the front door of a customer's house, to how you run that payment and end things with the customer, show them that process. And honestly, that was built over those 17 years prior, but I was able to come into something that was already there and just build on that. So it was very helpful.
We talked a little bit about like what, the baseline of like what would work to get you there. JP, you've even worked for a different home improvement company. Like what doesn't work, I guess? So like I would ask you to, because I haven't, luckily I've been, I say this all the time, like I'm kind of arrogant in the way I talk about like, how wouldn't they know that? Or why don't they do that, right? But it's like my only job has been, in my eyes, like the right way. Like I've gotten to see revamp, grow a company in my eyes, like the right way versus, you've worked at another home improvement company that really, really struggled. You were a canvasser, right, at a other home improvement company. Like, do you feel like the way we do things is substantially different than what you guys were in prior?
1000%. Like again, it comes down to the leadership. Like I feel like the management that I was working under, had the team, but then kind of like you guys said, like they didn't really, to a point, they kind of like left the field, right? Like at the end of the day, like they weren't reinforcing the respect that was needed to like obviously even like have that structure, but they didn't really take it serious. Like again, there's like, people always ask about the secret, and it's like they want passive income, they want to like, get to a certain point and then relax. Like I feel like that's kind of where they were at with things. As to like, again, the things that are different like between like companies is just like the guys that are obviously higher up are still in it and constantly reinforcing that respect and like showing their teams that there is, obviously more to be done. And
sometimes the fucking secret's a 20-hour day.
yeah,
right? As much as people want to think that the secret is like, hiring and putting people in place to just make it passive income, like you said, sometimes the secret's a fucking 20-hour day. Oh, and then when you wake up, sometimes the secret is doing it again, and then again, and then again, for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. I remember in spring, I don't know if yours is kind of leveled out, but when we started in spring, it was nonstop. It was nonstop. Every single day, it was till the sun came up, till the sun came down, my phone didn't stop ringing. I implemented some processes to clean a little bit of that up, but again, until you get your team where you're at to stay consistent at the top, it's just a lot of fucking massive action, like we talk about.
People say it's, simple. Like the principle of it is simple, but like executing it isn't easy. People overcomplicate it because it's hard, but it's always super simple. And again, that's what prevents people from even taking that action.
Yeah, and to that effect, like you can't count the cost of every day of the time that you put into it and everything you pour into it. You can't count the cost. You just got to pay the price. And in the end, as you continue to structure things, it'll get better.
Well, and it kind of goes with what he said too, the quote, we always talk about too, like, have you ever thought the things that were harder than you thought they'd be would reward you in ways greater than you thought they would? Right, which is an awesome quote, because again, that if you just consistently put in that massive action and just go and do it and do it and do it, like eventually you'll get through that, and then you will have, the guy to replace you, and then it will be kind of, passive income. You'll still be, working a bunch on another section of your business, but you got through that hump in the road.
So when it comes to like replacing guys, or not replacing guys, but finding a guy to replace what you did, what are some qualities that you look for in, a sales guy? Because obviously, like, again, to fall back on the topic, like, people are the business, right? And, like, a business isn't anything without the people. So, like, what are some things that you guys look for in guys, when you're trying to find quality people?
I would say the number one thing for me is a history of work ethic. And that work ethic doesn't have to be, the hours. It doesn't have to be anything physical. It's more of what are they willing to put in to streamline their life to focus on their goals. So whether that's personal or work related, I want to see a history of somebody who has clearly demonstrated a work ethic in any endeavor that they've had. So also I like to create that culture that really pulls success out of everybody else. So they're a team builder, not a distractor. And honestly, there's just tons of different personalities. Like my personality is very laid back and very structured. Like he said, we're the yin and yang, but what I was attracted to when I interviewed the very first time we talked was that massive action. And I could tell, I'm like, I'm all about that. I need that pull. So I'm also looking to create that with the team. Like, how can I create that pull for the right guys? We can train the skills, but it's really hard to train someone that doesn't have the right character, doesn't have that right excitement level about what they want to do in life.
When I was recruiting Jamie, I was blowing up his phone like an ex-girlfriend, for sure. For sure. Hey, but it worked. We're sitting here. We're sitting here. No, it's definitely, finding like high quality guys. Like, I tell people that all the time, and I've heard like other guys in the home service industry talk about it. If you can take A+ people, like typically they'll turn out to be an A+ player for you. So finding those people that are, the high character people to get into your business, and then train them on what you need to train them on, more times than not, they're going to figure it out. Versus, you get the guy with prior experience that, maybe he is a good closer or a really good technician, but he also brings like a lot of baggage because he's a know-it-all. He isn't for the culture. Like, we need people that are like willing to like pull everyone, not just pull their own rope over here, right?
Sounds like a common denominator, and I keep, saying the word, but it's structure. Like you said, Jamie, like it really just comes down to like having a solid base. Like when it comes to like obviously the kind of person that you are, being able to look for people, that have those same character traits, that have that same structure underneath them as well. And if those blocks, keep stacking up, like obviously that's how you scale. Can I ask, like, what's, like, again, obviously, like, it's hard, but I feel like, each person's story is different. Like, what was the hardest part for you, like, when it came to, where you're at now?
I think one of the hardest things for me was not being able to know the end result before. So this is my background. I want to know how it's going to work out. Yeah. But you have to put in all that work. You have to figure it out as you go in order to get that result. So for people who really like that structure where I'm like, I just want to know that the effort I put in, that this is what it's going to yield. That was what I had to overcome. So there was a lot of self-image building. There was a lot of technique building. There was a lot of those things that I really just had to work on me personally. As you're growing a team and as you're continuing to have success, then you've got this new level that you have to build on again. So you got to kind of start over and rebuild that self-image first in order to continue pushing through it. But the massive action was probably one of those things that I really struggled with because I wanted to plan more than I wanted to take action. So I've learned a lot from this sheer fact of just do it, you'll figure it out.
When I think, again, you're not going to be, like, I can't be the best sales manager, the best production tech, the best office admin, right? Jamie can't be the best sales rep, the best sales manager, the best you can't be all of those people. And I think like understanding that and not trying to be, like, Jamie isn't going to be the guy that just like goes in and like, shoves as hard as I do, but I'm also not going to be the guy that's like, we're shoving, now I should build this whole plan out so then I don't have to push as hard. So it's kind of like finding that connection and putting those pieces together and just actually having the willingness, because I've seen it from other business owners and you've worked for others as well, but like, I think there's a lot of people out there that are just so ignorant to the fact of like, let's step back, like, let's see what we're not good at, like, let's maybe hire somebody or move somebody into that role, because I don't need to be the best CFO, I don't need to be the best CEO and COO, CMO, etc. Like, let's just find people that are really good at those, so then you can be really good at the thing that you need to be good at.
You think the hardest part for you was delegation?
I think any high achiever, it always is, right? Like, I had a conversation with Shanae downstairs, who's one of the office admins. It's like, stop doing that task. Like, we have somebody for that. Like, and Sean too, I had this conversation with him. He was doing like a $20 an hour task. I'm like, Sean, you're the 50% owner of a $15 million decorative concrete curbing company. Like, you can't be doing a $20 task anymore. And it's like, any high achiever is just like, get out of my way, let me do it. But it's like, that's not the most efficient, right? Like, you have to have someone do that. You have someone for that. Like, put them in place, because you're worth more than that now. So stop trying to do that, right?
Yeah, we've all heard it, like, you got to figure out a way to stop working in the business so you can work on it. Yeah. But saying it is one thing, but in practice it's completely different. So learning which tasks you need to start to eliminate and be able to delegate is probably one of the hardest things to figure out as you grow. And if you grow exponentially, you got to do it even quicker. And you got to be okay with that other person doing that task not as well as you did.
Because ultimately it's a long-term game, right? Like, I think, they're not going to be as good as you, off the rip. But like, again, being able to like be that leader and like give them, the knowledge and skills to eventually, surpass you.
So to wrap it up, Jamie, if you were going from $0 in revenue, your first milestone is probably going to be $1 million in revenue, and then it's going to be $10 million. We're going to skip to exactly where we're at now. Polypro is probably going to do 20, low 20s this year. AE will probably do, 14 to 16, somewhere in there. If you were going to build a company from 0 to $15 million, what is the one last piece of advice you'd leave for people watching this? I know a lot of people obviously out there, obviously that's a goal of most business owners, to continue growing. Like, what is the one thing you would say, go do this now?
Massive action is probably the first thing that stands out, and don't worry about the mistakes. You're going to make them. You can clean up the mess, you can move forward with those, and you're going to learn from those mistakes probably more and grow faster as a result. But if you try to plan everything and have it perfectly laid out, you won't take the action. It'll be delayed, and you'll go through so much more, it'll take so much more effort to get to that point versus just taking action and adjusting on the fly.
Life's greatest teacher is experience. And I can't say that enough. There's so many things that you just can't teach people until they go through it.
I always tell guys, like, impatience with implementing, patience with results. Like, again, like, take that messy action, but like, trust the fact that like, you are going to learn something, and, time goes on, and like, you're going to be stronger from it, worst case.
Wrap it up, Justin.
Jamie, Parker, seriously, I really appreciate your guys' time. A lot of knowledge was dropped today. 0 to 15 million is a big leap, so apply what you can. But, stay tuned for the next episode, because, there's going to be one more piece to the puzzle being applied.